It's time for News You Need. News You Need is a look at current events and how they affect the college community and beyond. And now here's the host of News You Need, Dr. Ed Simpson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a most excellent and exciting edition of News You Need. This is the show where we talk to the most amazing human beings in the whole world, which is our USM students. And we have another amazing group with us today, as well as our co-host, Dr. Brent Hale. So why are we here? Well, this is the show where we talk about what's in the news. And the reason we talk about what's in the news is to figure out what issues are facing our society, what decisions we need to make as citizens, and what direction we want to go. And the only way to know that is to consume the news, talk about the news, figure out what you want to do, and then actually go do it. So why don't we get going here? We introduce ourselves, maybe give us your name, obviously, maybe hometown, what year you're in, maybe major, and then or what you teach. How about that?
I'm being looked at, so I guess that means it's my
that's
turn.
You're up.
Yeah, so I am, again, Brent Hale, and I, again, was out in the hall and was dragged in for this show.
Yep.
Yeah, I teach media and communication here, including things like public speaking, social media, so on and so forth. So that's where I am coming in from.
Hey everyone, my name is Caleb Favaloro. I'm from Norman, Oklahoma. I'm a sophomore and I'm a hydrography major. So for anybody who doesn't know what that is, that's like ocean mapping.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too. And I also want to know, how did you find USM from Norman, Oklahoma, which is the home of what? The University of Oklahoma, correct?
Yes. We're big OU fans. It was great when they moved over to the SEC. Anyway, so I knew I wanted to do something with hydrography specifically. And when you look up top hydrography schools in the U.S., USM is at the top of that list.
Wow.
USM is one of 3 schools in the U.S. that has specifically hydrographic focused, like a degree plan.
That's crazy.
And it was
I
like
love
right
that.
size.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like Florida sized where it's like there's 60,000 students. You're just a number. You can't get to know anybody.
Right.
This is like a very, like it's the perfect size.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I love all that. Okay, excellent.
Hi, I'm Annabella Laird. I'm a freshman here at USM, a freshman communication studies major. I'm from Natchez, Mississippi, and I am a producer here at
Yes,
News
you
You
are.
Need.
Yay! Yay!
Hi, I am Nadine Samara. I'm a Palestinian American USM student. I am currently a junior, and I am the president for Eagles for Palestine at USM. And I'm also involved with the Human Rights Association here at USM, as well as the SAPA stuff that's going on, the Sexual Assault Awareness Month stuff that's going on this April. Yeah, and I'm a philosophy major, and I'm a theater minor, and I study a lot of music also.
Okay, just absolute kudos to our producers finding the most interesting human beings in the entire world.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested that they found someone that wanted to do hydrography, and they're from the middle of the country where there are no oceans. So that's kind of interesting.
I didn't know they offered that here. That's really interesting.
This could be hours, an hours-long show. I want to absolutely come back to Palestine because that's fascinating to me. Hydrology. Now, so the way the program works here, so you took your basic courses here at Hattiesburg, but
Correct.
now you're being shipped off to the coast. Is that correct?
Yes. So all of the gen ed courses that you need to take, so bio, chem, physics, and then like sociology and all that kind of stuff, linear algebra, you can take those on the Hattiesburg campus, but everything that's more ocean related would obviously need to be at the Gulf Park campus where
Yes.
you're at the campus.
We do have a
There's-
pond out here, but I don't think that's what they mean.
You have the campus, the road, and it's the beach.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
It's
you can't
so
get
cool.
much closer
It's
than that.
so
So it's
cool.
like for your ocean acoustics classes, your tides and waves, all that kind of stuff.
Have you been on our boat?
I have not. No,
It's very cool.
I was on their our boat's sister ship when I was at U.S. Hydro
There you
2025.
go.
It was the Cape Hatteras, which is
Yeah.
the sister ship to the Point CERN.
Well, there you go. I mean, so did you know this? USM has a major boat, and you can actually rent it.
I've known something about it, but
Yeah.
the specific details, I don't know. I know that we also have various both manned and unmanned ships that are fired at
By
our
which you mean
military, so
person.
that's interesting. What?
You mean personed.
Yes.
Person
yes.
and unperson.
Meaning people on it or people not on it.
Correct. I'm just keeping it real over here. So, I love that. So, talk to us a little bit about. So, you're now you're a former SGA senator.
Yes.
But you're also involved in SAPA, and you guys had an event recently.
Yes. So during, as she said earlier, this is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It's the big month where we try and reach out to as many people as possible, to people who want to learn. And a big thing with that is knowing the resources available to you in the local area. And a large part of that is the Schaefer Center. So they're a free resource for anybody. They service pretty much the entire county block around Hattiesburg and Laurel. And we had Teresa Elzy from the Schaefer Center come in to speak to us about sexual assault resources, her story, what led her to the Schaefer Center, and just all the, just to tell people, and I don't know, just for people to learn things that they wouldn't know otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the whole issue is sexual assault on campus, right? And the idea of making it less.
Yes.
Fewer incidents of sexual assault, and then, of course, supporting survivors.
Yes.
And making sure we're assaulting fewer people, which I think is a good goal for society. So speaking of good goals, talk to me about Palestine. And so you're two groups. Talk to us about your groups.
Okay, so at the moment, we are doing a few tabling events because we're trying to put ourselves out there. We feel like not enough people know about our cause and what we have going on, that we even exist, because I feel like we are being super censored. We are being super, like, our voices, what we can say is being very limited. And also, there have been, like, a bunch of interviews that I've done where what I have said has been completely misconstrued, completely misstated, just things of that nature that has been going on at the moment.
Really?
And that's actually an issue that I was dealing with last week that we're not going to get into. It was super frustrating.
Wow.
But yeah, we raise awareness, but mostly we work with Pine Belt for Palestine, which is a very active group. Like the last 2 weeks, we had a bunch of protests. We had one in Hattiesburg. A few students did show up. It was near campus. And then there was one in Gulfport, one in Long Beach that I went to that was right in front of the Gulfport campus, or whatever that campus is called. But and then there was one in Jackson also. And there were very few people there, but like just to be able to show up is a very good thing. And although protests are not the most effective way of getting your message out there, it is still a disruptive form of letting people know, like letting people know you exist, and also kind of raising your spirits and gaining community and like seeing who's with you, who isn't, seeing kind of the reaction from the community, which is helpful.
Yeah, that's very well stated. About throughout history, there have always been these protest movements, right, going back thousands and thousands of years, and the goals are always the same: community, awareness, those kinds of things. So what are the goals of the group?
The goals of the group is mostly to spread awareness about what's going on in Palestine, and Americans' involvement with what is going on in Palestine, because it plays a larger part than we like to accept. It is like the reason it is going on, and it has been going on for a bunch of years. And although this movement has gained popularity throughout the years, we're kind of spreading information about the long history of it, and also it's not only about what's going on in Palestine, it's about the many things and the many worldwide issues that are going on at the moment. But I feel like since this specific movement has gained a lot of popularity, we're using that platform to like spread awareness about also issues that are going on worldwide that
Okay, we are, yep, so I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're
so
good.
we're going to come back with worldwide issues, because I totally agree, and we need to get to those right after this break.
Calling all families.
Calling all children. And kids of all ages.
Are you looking for a variety of music the whole family can listen to?
Yeah!
Then look no further. We have traditional songs, international tunes, and fresh new beats.
Join us every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m.
Right here on Southern Miss Radio
for the Hickory Dickory Dock Show. Catch you Saturday. Catch you then.
Southern Miss Radio is home to Don Rodney Radio's Rhythm and Blues Show.
WUSM, Southern Miss Radio, 88.5, Don Rodney Radio's Rhythm and Blues Show, another summertime song. I love this.
Don Rodney Radio spotlights the composers and performers of Mississippi Delta blues, such as Charlie Patton, Mississippi John Hurt, Robert Johnson, and more. Here on Southern Miss Radio, Sundays from noon until 2.
And as usual, we talk through the break. So now you identify as Palestinian, but you are a U.S. citizen born here, correct?
Yes.
So talk to us about that just a little bit.
Well, I am also a Palestinian citizen. I have my Palestinian passport, and I have lived in Palestine for 8 years, 9-ish years. So I was born in Puerto Rico, and I stayed here for 2 months, and then I went back to Palestine, lived until I was like around 8 years old.
Wow.
And that's when I came back to America, and then continued, and then we visit every few years when we can, because it has always been super complicated, like traveling down there, and bridges would be closed, certain things, so like we'd visit when we can.
Wow. Wow. So okay, so you have dual citizenship.
Yes.
And so that allows you to go back and forth at will.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you think about what's going on with the Trump administration and the targeting of college students who are protesting what U.S. is doing in Palestine and, of course, its policy with Israel? How are we feeling about that?
I mean, of course.
I want to ask you, too, if our USM students overall are dealing with this, you clearly are very connected to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of course, it's super frustrating at the moment. It's unconstitutional. That's straight up what it is. A lot of the things that have been going on, and I am legal studies also, so I do plan on going to law school and pursuing politics. So like I'm very, I would say a little bit informed for a college student, but yeah, it's straight up unconstitutional. Like what is going on is it's not right, and the unsafety of students, because for it's like targeting college students' free speech, which is typically the main demographic that is willing to speak up. And I feel like that's just super duper harmful.
Yeah. So what do you think? Are you hearing that with other USM students, that the war in Palestine or the Palestinian-Israeli conflict continues to be an issue for students? Are you guys hearing that?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that it's something that keeps getting brought up, and the U.S.'s continuing involvement in the conflict, maybe not directly, but directly as in monetary and weapon shipments. But it's still a topic that comes up a lot, but I think now it's shifted more towards domestic policy.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
not domestic policy only, but it's like the policy that's done domestically that's affecting everything else, i.e. the tariffs.
Yep.
The tariffs are a big point of contention currently. Guys, but they worked. They totally worked. It's not because they stopped the tariffs is that the Dow went up, but whatever.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think that we really are in a moment where things have started shifting pretty hard. I mean, we've been in this moment for a little bit now, but a very intense focus on domestic issues, especially. I mean, right now the economy and the state of the Dow and the S&P and whatever, like that is the thing that people are paying attention to. And I think that if you're someone who's really concerned about people keeping eyeballs on the things that are occurring, and you're trying to get attention on the issue specifically for this conflict, this is actually a very dangerous time. Because when everyone's attention is domestically focused, there's a little bit more gray area to make things happen internationally that maybe we're not paying much attention to. And I will say, and we were chatting earlier today about this, Dr. Simpson and I, about kind of how this climate of fear is really starting to introduce itself into college campuses, where if I feel threatened that I could be deported, I could be taken away, put in a prison somewhere, that could itself kind of be the point, right? If I feel, or if I have created an environment where you are afraid and maybe you're thinking about leaving, well, that's the point in some ways, right? And I think that's what makes this moment particularly dangerous for causes like that one in particular.
Yeah. I mean, and this is coming up repeatedly in a variety of different, both domestic issues and international issues, right? So this climate of fear, this unwillingness to speak out because, well, what's going to happen to me, right? So we see this across the country, graduate students their visas being ripped away from them and being told, hey, you got to go back to your country. We see this in DEI issues. I mean, faculty are worried about what's in their syllabus. What can they say in a class? So let me ask you this. Are our students talking about the anti-DEI legislation that the Mississippi legislature approved last week? Are students aware of that, and how are we thinking?
Well, I was just informed by Lily that there was a protest for it this morning.
Were you in on that one?
I did not attend it because I was at
You missed
another
a
meeting.
protest? What are you doing?
How dare I? But yeah, I was very well aware of it, and I think it's still going on at the moment. And I will stop by and go see. Let y'all
There you
know.
go.
I'm
I think
I will go to it after
I'll
this.
walk out there too.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm so sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so I think that is evident that it is something that is very important to the students of USM, that this is a protest they've organized against it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know to what extent these students know that it will affect them or not. I think that's kind of like where students are.
So yeah, and actually I did want to talk about that a little bit. So I actually read the law last week because it concerns us and our faculty and our students directly. And the law doesn't go nearly as far as I think as people think it does. So for instance, pedagogy, or the way we teach, is specifically exempted. Research is specifically exempted. If you have accreditation standards for your program, like in our journalism program, for instance, diversity is a accreditation standard. That is specifically exempted. So you are left with the idea of, well, what then does it cover? And so the law talks about this idea of divisive concepts. So this is what we don't know. And I really would fascinated to see what our students think about this, right? So if you're in, say, a political science, history, or even a journalism class where you're talking about slavery, does that violate the divisive concept idea?
I don't think it should. Is that a divisive subject?
I don't know. There's no definition. Well, okay, here's what the definition of the law is. Will this subject cause somebody to feel uncomfortable?
Shut down the institution. It's over, right? Like, if we can't make people feel uncomfortable, what is the point?
How do you teach?
Especially in something like you mentioned, a political science class or a journalism class. Like, you can't talk about anything that may potentially make anybody uncomfortable. You're kind of losing the whole class at that point.
So if I'm an African American and you don't mention the concept of white supremacy in connection with slavery, that makes me highly uncomfortable.
I get, so like the absence of some topics will also make people uncomfortable.
Correct.
So it's really, yeah, that is kind of bad.
Yeah,
I was trying to find a better word for it.
Removing some topics leads to the belief that like they were born in a vacuum, which they're not. Slavery did not start from nothing, right? It has these deep-rooted, uncomfortable like origins that people need to know for you to understand how it was institutionalized and how it was furthered after the Civil War even ended. So when slavery ended, its aftershocks were still felt after. And I mean, personally, college is where you go to grow as a person, right? And you can't grow if you're not uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you can't grow within your comfort zone.
Yeah. Now, I will say, as a journalism guy all my life, math makes me uncomfortable, Dr. Hale. That feels like that is a divisive concept. If you're asking me to run a chi-square, I'm uncomfortable.
I don't even know what that is.
Exactly.
I do like me a chi-square.
I know you do.
Oh.
You know, it's one of the goals of higher education, and I don't think this is in any way controversial. One of the goals is to develop critical thinking.
Correct.
And we know that when we ask employers, which is a thing that we do, and we ask them, what do you want from people who are coming out of colleges and universities? And they say we want people who can critically think, who can think critically, work through a problem, can investigate, question things, and try to come up with better solutions than the ones we already have. This is flying in the face of that and saying, hey, we have certain things we're just not going to talk about because it creates this space where we start questioning and thinking hard and getting into spaces where people are uncomfortable. That's the point. That's how we grow. That's how students are expected to grow. And so trying to legislate that away is just insane.
It really, well, what do you think?
Well, I think that any form of limiting the type of education that is given to college students is bad, for lack of better words, is bad. I don't think anything should be limited. I think we are here to expand and learn about any and everything, and also be able to express ourselves in any way that is not harmful to others. And so if we are not teaching harmful concepts and ideas that disrupt the normal way and regular society, then I think limiting what we have going on that is not harmful is just extremely repressive and just very, very unfortunate to see happen. Like, I never thought that this idea would even exist, that something like this would even happen, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, it occurred to me, it has occurred to me, that this moment we're in is almost like a light switch moment. Like in December, we were still talking about how to make DEI programs work. 3 months later, we're talking about, oh, you can't even use those letters together without some sort of fear, without some sort of, oh my God, they're going to come and stomp on you. It's just a very remarkable moment, a remarkable time, and I do worry about our USM students. I actually lose sleep over how our USM students are processing this moment, and it's quite historical.
We were talking about subjects that can't be taught, and I was reminded of something that happened a few days ago with an organization I work for that I think I mentioned to you whenever I first was onboarded. Is I do social media and advisory for Teen Health Mississippi, which is a health organization, and the sector I'm part of gives sexual health curriculum to students and teens that are like trans, queer, disabled, all-inclusive. And recently the curriculum that we use, we can no longer use it because of executive orders against trans education for students. I got an email about that about 2 days ago.
From whom?
Like who the executive order is from? I think it's...
Yeah, I mean, so what group is this?
Teen Health Mississippi.
And so it's a state organization?
It's not like government or anything. It's
Right.
just based in Mississippi. But
Interesting.
and so now we are in the process of trying to figure out what to do now. That was my whole job was...
Is it grant funded? I mean, because the president has no authority over a local nonprofit group.
I'm
It's
not
just
entirely
fascinating. So we got to dig into this.
Yeah, I'm a little curious about that too, because it must be an issue with funding.
Yeah, I tell you what, we're going to pick up because this is the ramifications of everything. Boy, we could go on for hours. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to pick up with ramifications, I think, on the other side.
Sponsorship comes from American Graphics. Located at 8 Commercial Warehouse Drive in Hattiesburg, American Graphics provides custom screen printing and embroidery. They can be reached by phone at 601-602-2277. And the website is goamericangraphics.com. American Graphics, printing at its finest.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Yeah, and we are back. So, yeah, and as usual, we continued talking through the break. So I do want to talk about this ramifications, and I think this idea of the bully pulpit power of the presidency, right? The president actually has very little authority beyond directing the federal bureaucracy.
For now.
For now, yeah. And that was a very good doom voice.
I was just
there.
about to say the delivery
that was
there.
Really well done. For now, yeah, I love it. So this we don't know, but it certainly could be an example that we're seeing across every sector of folks who know that the president doesn't have any direct authority over them, but they're trying to obey anyway. Do you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, so as we were talking throughout the break, I mentioned that through the first month or these first few months of the Trump administration, it seems like we're just being bombarded with all of these executive orders that keep getting passed. And from an outsider perspective, if you're not looking into it, from a normal person's perspective, you're like, oh my gosh, the president is changing so much in 3 months. What is happening? I have no control over what's going on in the government. Even if they voted for this guy, they didn't think it would go that far. But even with that, a lot of the things that President Trump is signing into with an executive order are getting struck down either in the courts or in the legislature.
That's actually a good point.
Right.
The courts are not totally, but in large measure, acting as the guardrails we would hope them to. Mm-hmm. Although there's an ongoing discussion about whether the Trump administration is willing to follow a court order.
And, the issue is the courts are doing this stuff. They're acting as checks and they're acting as a guardrail, but that's not the point. The point is if we can put together this long line of issues, people will preemptively start to comply.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. People are
Yep.
preemptively going, okay, well, we have to take this away. We've got to change our language here. There's not been a legal reason to do it yet, but we envision that there will be. And again, that is the point. The point is to just be moving so fast into doing so many things that people will just comply because they feel like they have no choice.
Yeah.
I remember this was a few weeks ago. I was just doing a paper for my economics class, and the subject of the paper was just workplace discrimination's effect on the economy as a whole. That's what it was about. And so one of the sources I went to was, I can't remember the exact name of the organization, but the federal organization that handles things like workplace discrimination and DEI, and that you submit complaints to whenever you feel like you are experiencing workplace discrimination. And it had all these lists of the processes you go through, what they define as workplace discrimination, all these things. And at the top was a big red banner and was due to recent executive orders by President Donald Trump, some of these are outdated or subject to change. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah. I really don't. Yeah. I mean, again, I think I'm going to talk to our producers, but I think we need a special processing the moment episode of NYN where we go, and I want you back.
Definitely.
You're welcome back too. But I think we need at least an hour, and I think we need to go through it specifically. How can we help our USM students process the moment we're in? So one thing that I do, we are going to go a little long. Is that okay? Okay, just going to prepare our engineers for that.
She's stressed back there.
Yeah, she's going, that's fine. You do it every week anyway. But one thing that I do, I am a historian by trade. I do a lot of other kind of research, but journalism history is one of my main things. So when I hit a moment, I like to see what in the past allows us to process what we're seeing now, right? So Dr. Hale and I actually were talking this morning, and you don't want to set a precedent of actually preparing for this show, but I did. So I went and pulled a letter from President Eisenhower to the CEO of General Mills. And so this was at the beginning, or actually right in the first third of the McCarthy era. Mm-hmm. This was the communist witch hunt era, the Red Scare, the so-called Red Scare in the 50s, where they were firing university professors, creating blacklists in Hollywood if you had any hint of being associated with the Communist Party. So when I was looking, the analogy, I've heard this a lot. The current moment we're in is similar to the Red Scare. And it occurred to me a key difference is who was the president. The Red Scare era was sparked by Joseph McCarthy, a junior senator from Wisconsin. So it began and continued and ended in Congress. The president, the CEO of General Mills wrote to Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1953 and said, "Hey, you need to put a stop to this. This is absolutely outrageous. There's nothing unconstitutional about being a communist. You're allowed to be a communist in the United States." This is what President Eisenhower at the time responded to. "It is a sorry mess." This is a quote. "It is a sorry mess. At times one feels almost like hanging his head in shame when he reads some of the unreasoned, vicious outbursts of demagoguery that appear in our public prints. But," now this is where Eisenhower wimped out. He just wimped out. "But whether a presidential, quote, crackdown would better or would actually worsen the situation is a moot question." So in other words, he wasn't going to do anything. But this current moment we're in is being led by the executive, as opposed to being led by a junior senator from Wisconsin. So I think, is the historic analogy really apt? And these guys are looking at me like, what do you want us to say? But anyway, that's
I say that is a 5 out of 5 history lesson. I appreciate that.
Okay, yeah.
But no, I'm with you. I think that it's just different. It is different because it's being led from the top, and it's just such a unprecedented moment.
Yeah.
I feel like instead of, especially McCarthyism kind of targeted people, not necessarily in power, but were well known. So like actors and writers and all these people that were kind of well known were mainly targets of McCarthyism. And Donald Trump's targeting like foreign exchange students in colleges that nobody knows the name of.
What a excellent observation that is. Targeting the wealthy and the known versus targeting the defenseless.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And also, we also have to look at it from the standpoint of billionaires. These people, like, okay, he is the executive leader, but also he has this immense amount of power because of the amount of money that he has, and we as Americans have accepted that the people with the most amount of power are the billionaires, are the people with money, because they control our economy. They control where we spend our money. They own everything. So like, yeah. I mean, that kind of brings it to a whole new level of
the oligarchy is a whole nother show.
Exactly.
I totally. So I'm gonna give our engineers a heads up. We're gonna ask Hayden weigh in one more time, and then we're gonna close it out here.
Yeah, I think it's really important, like what you said there, that money has a big sway over it, and especially with the very consumerist, capitalistic mindset that just America in general has. Like, oh, the billionaires have a lot of money. They must have earned all of it, honestly, right? So that's why we trust them, even though if you were to have that much money, you would have screwed somebody over at some point.
Oh, man, you guys are just super
Sorry,
smart.
one more thing. I also feel like people think, there's always the assumption that someone who's a billionaire must be like such a super genius to figure out how to get that much money. I feel like we see that a lot with Elon Musk specifically.
Yeah, that's a third show.
And I just don't think that's necessarily true.
Wow, this is great. So anyway, great show, guys. Great insight. Wonderful comments from our USM students. So important. So this has been a production of Southern Miss Student Media. Our engineer is Kylie Keenan. Thank you, Kylie. Our videographer is Isabella Michaud. And our producers are Lily Burgard and Annabelle Laird, who are doing an astounding job of getting us guests. We will be back the week after next. Next week, I believe we're off, right?
Yes.
No school.
Easter.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So we'll take a week break, and then we'll be back.
This has been News You Need with Dr. Ed Simpson. News You Need airs Friday afternoon at 12:30 on Southern Miss Radio.